Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Kube Ambassador. Yes, I've done a name change, and why? Well, not through my own choice. My old my old now YouTube channel was called the Cube Vanguard, and it was linked to my university alumni account. And about a month ago, the university said, "Hey, we're switching from Gmail to Microsoft Online 365." Oh, great! No, not so great, because I didn't realize just how intertwined that Gmail account was with everything. YouTube, this, that, everywhere I looked, my Gmail account was their passwords. It was just horrible. So I've been scrambling to try to rearrange things. But the YouTube thing was just impossible because you had to convert it to a branding account, and I just everywhere like dollar signs would come out. I said, you know what, I'll start anew. I don't want to pay money for this, so it's the Cube Ambassador. It's linked to a new Gmail account and has 0 subscribers, so this makes things a lot easier. I don't have to worry, right? I will put this out on the internet, so that's why I've got a new channel name. On top of that, I will post this on Twitter for the last time. I'm leaving Twitter. Not going to go into it. I will only say this, that if you have to fire people or you have to, perform difficult functions after difficult decisions, always retain your respect for people, okay? Your dignity. There's no point in dragging people through the mud, okay? All you're doing is lowering your image, all right? Furthermore, and I have to make this statement, I've seen so many silly stories coming out of this whole thing, but to call a whole group, a whole profession entitled, right? Engineers, let's get the record straight. The only thing those engineers did was put their resumes in, okay? And then CEOs and C-level executives overhired. They overhired. Like, I don't put a resume and hire myself, do I? No. Okay. So these guys aren't entitled. These folks are not entitled. There's working people, okay? And obviously their mistakes were made, overhiring, and maybe it's no one's fault because COVID, prognosis, that happens. Mark Zuckerberg, for instance, Facebook, actually admitted, he said, you know what, this was my fault. I hired too many people. Hey, no problems with that, fully respect, and that happens, okay? But, the Santa Barbara, drama, soap opera stuff is it's just silly. It's just, all you're doing is making yourself look bad, okay? I think the most important thing to remember is to always try to be fair and be just and respect the rules of the system, okay? If you lose, you lose. It's unfortunate, but what can you do? Don't go whining, oh, it's a hoax, it's rigged. Anyone can do that. And if everyone does that, nothing's going to work, okay? So if you are doing that, you've only got one purpose. You're trying to mess up the system, okay? All right, some harsh words, but the words people need to listen to, all right? Sometimes I get the feeling, maybe because I'm getting older, that people have switched off their brains, okay? They just switch them off. So, find the switch. Ting, woo, there we are. Oh, I'm alive, Frankenstein. Just think things through, okay? All right, great. Anyways, I'm leaving Twitter because, again, I don't have anything to do with that. It'll be a lot less exposure. But you know what? You need to do the right thing. You have to do the right thing. There's no point in selling your conscience, okay? You can still succeed. In fact, you will succeed even more in the end because you stayed, with your conscience and your right behavior. Doesn't mean you have to agree with people, right? There's a lot of people I don't agree with. Treat them with respect, listen to them, try to convince them, but then if you can't convince them, fine, all right? Wow, I've done some pontificating this morning, but I thought that was necessary to say. So this will go out, I'll announce it on Twitter, but that's going to be it pretty much. All right, I am on Mastodon, so I'm learning that, but it's a whole new thing. Anyways, let's get on to the business of the day. The business of the day today is authentication, not authorization. Well, authorization too. So I'm also an Auth0 ambassador. And one of the things I said when I became an Auth0 ambassador was that, look, take a look at me. I'm not Mr. Genius developer, and I know a little bit about this, but there's a long learning curve ahead. However, what I can do is talk a lot, right? So what I will do is start this journey, and as I go along, I'll pull people along with me so, that people can learn too. Because it's complicated. Everything in life is complicated to some extent. But I found authentication and identity management to be especially challenging because I've never done it before, all right? But it's that much more fun, right? Okay, So what I've been doing in my Auth0 journey, well, I'm looking at all identity management systems, whatnot. So I've also looked at Okta, because Okta and Auth0, I think Okta now owns Auth0, so they're kind of like, it's like Veeam and Kasten, but they still have the separate platforms. And I'm noticing some really interesting stuff. Now, obviously, I'm tying this into stuff I work with. So this week, I was setting up Enterprise Manager with Okta and Auth0, at least trying to, okay? But I'm running into some interesting things, which are telling me a lot of interesting information. So I'm also doing a great course. I've done one. I'm doing a second one on Udemy. And I'm going to recommend this fellow because I really enjoyed this course. And the second one I'm really enjoying as well. So let me just get the fellow's name on my Udemy. So they're long courses. I find them quite challenging. Okay. Let me just share this for a second. 1 second. But nevertheless, very, very interesting. So there is the webpage, Udemy, and the fellow's name is Viray Shetty. And this one I completed, Enterprise OAuth2 and OpenID Connect. I'm also doing a SAML with Okta course, which is right over there. Whoa, where did it go? Oh, there it is. SAML with Okta course, SAML 2. It's the same fellow who's doing the course. Very, very good course. Very challenging in the sense that if you're brand new to it, but nevertheless, very much worth it. Okay. So I'm trying to go over these things. And what I normally do, just for some advice, is I'll take a course. Don't worry if you don't get it all just from one course. You probably won't, especially if you're not like a developer in an area like this. Not that you need to be a developer. Just go through it. The way the brain works is it kind of collects stuff in bits and pieces, and then it kind of starts to put them together like a mosaic. Okay, at least in my case. And it doesn't always happen right away. Hopefully before the exam, if not. So look at the course, read documents, look at blog posts, and slowly but surely, before you realize it, you'll start understanding stuff that like 2 months ago you didn't. Okay, so that's what I try to do. Now, also you have to start putting things into practice, because if you don't put it into practice, it's just all very abstract. So what I try to do this week, and I say try because it worked in one case, didn't work in another case, is connect Enterprise Manager Veeam with Okta using SAML protocol and Auth0. Okay, so in one case I was successful, in the other I was not. And I'm just going to show some interesting stuff here. What happens? Let me just pull this over this way. So with Okta, it worked, and again, it was pretty straightforward, but you still have to, understand a few concepts. Now, in Enterprise Manager, when you've done this, you have to basically, I'll switch my screen. So you log in as administrator. These are all test systems. So, I mean, if you see something, you hack into it, it's going to be like you get a free smile from McDonald's. That's it. So nothing to worry about there. Just some jobs I got running in my little test environment. And the way you set it up in Enterprise Manager is you go into configuration and then settings. Okay. And here is the SAML authentication. And it's pretty straightforward. The problem that I found as someone who's new to this is that some of the terminologies are different, but they mean the same thing. So you have to figure that out. So for instance, there's identity ID. This is the identity provider configuration part. So this would be the information from Okta or from Auth0. So you have an entity ID, you have a login URL, and then a method of binding. So post or redirect. In fact, most of the time it's redirect. I think from what I understand from my course, the system on the other side will see what's coming in and can automatically, dynamically change. And then what you do is you import the metadata file. In fact, if you import this metadata file, all these fields here self-autocomplete. So you save yourself the trouble. Okay. Again, this is going to be a very quick overview because during my show, I don't have enough time, but these will be in blog posts with much more detail. I just want to point out some of the fun, interesting stuff that happens. So I did that. This part here is very simple. It's all the local stuff. It can be auto-created. You just put a name in. And fine, I created that. Okay, for Okta, it worked. Okay, for Okta, it worked. However, now I've set it up for Auth0, and it's not working. And so what did I do to figure out? Well, first of all, you can add in your browser in the More Tools section in Developer Tools, you can add a SAML thing, which will show you SAML. Now, if I can find it, where is it? SAML, come here. It's here somewhere. 1 second. Oh my goodness, this is always what's happened. Oh, there it is. It's this little arrow. Okay, there it is. SAML. SAML. All right, and so what I'm going to do is, and it'll show you in real time what the application is trying to do. So I'm going to try to log on using the single sign-on. In this case, it's Auth0. I already did Okta, and I'll show you that that worked from the log. Okay, there it goes, and I'm getting access denied, okay? Now, here I can actually get the response, all the information that's happened. So there's what I threw out to Auth0, and this is the response I got, okay? And to make a long story short, I figured out what the problem is, okay? And I'll show you. In the Veeam logs, okay, this was the web log. So the log for Enterprise Manager is the Veeam web app log. And I just changed the name to Okta so I'd know which one it was. If you look at this, this worked, okay? And it says here, got name ID claim, and there's tom1@sunati.com. That's a fictitious character and fictitious email, but it doesn't matter. But it worked because I put it in my identity provider. And on the other side here, I'll reload and I'll do a search. So name ID, this is in the Veeam logs. I get this, got name ID claim, and it says auth0, blah, 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 blah. So these are attributes, they're called in identity management, in the SAML that is. So in other words, you send in a request and it sends back from Okta or for Auth0 a response, and in that response are attributes, okay? And what's happening is Enterprise Manager is looking for an attribute called named ID, and it wants to tie it in to like the email address, something like that, well, that you've got in Enterprise Manager. And I'll show you where that is here. If I log in here, what I have are roles, okay? Enterprise Manager, go back to configuration and go over to here to roles, all right? And what you do is you add somebody as an external user, okay? So here is external user, tom1@sunati.com. That one worked, okay? So Enterprise Manager is trying to, when it gets this SAML response back from the authentication, from the ID manager, the provider, ID identification provider, it's looking for these attributes, and it's looking for that one, tom1@sunati.com. However, in the Auth0, it's not getting that. It's getting something different. So what does this mean? This means that in Auth0, and I found out you can do this, I need to go and change that attribute. So I needed to, for that SAML response, to send back what Enterprise Manager wants to see so that it can tie it in to that user, okay? So a lot of fun. And obviously, again, don't worry if this sounds complicated. It is a bit complicated, but it's just, it's fun, right? Complicated is fun. So again, Okta, I got to work. Auth0, I haven't. And I also, by the way, found a KB, which I can't, it's somewhere on my desktop, but Veeam KB, which actually states this, that Enterprise Manager wants to have a named ID come back with a UPN, principal name, universal principal name, something like that. Anyways, there's a KB for that. So what I'm trying to show you here is a combination of tools that I used to figure this out. So I used this little extension, a Chrome extension, SAML extension, so I can actually look at what is being sent back to me. So I can actually see in this, if you look at it, there is that named ID, right? So it's in there somewhere. Like this is it here, I think. See, isn't that, yeah, what the log says? If we look at that, let's just copy it because I can mess up my log and go here. And look, 6303, something long thing. Fine, let's just take a look. Is that the same one? Let's open this here. Oops, say reload. And I bet you it is. So let's go into here. Yes, okay, it ends with A2, BA2. Yeah, so I don't look the first characters and the last characters. I'm too lazy to learn the whole thing. So that's my problem, okay? Okta sent the tom1@sunati.com as the named ID. Auth0, the way it's been set up by default, the named ID, it's sending this identifier number thingy. And I've already looked up, and there's also, by the way, the community too, the Auth0 community, where I can ask where I can change this or put in a rule in or something like that. So I'm going to do that for next week, and then we'll get it to work. Anyways, a lot of fun, big learning curve, but a lot of fun. Okay, I'm out of time. That's it for this week. We will see you next week on the Kube Ambassador. Bye-bye.